Do you remember the accusations that the bishops covered up priests who abused minors and seminarians? I know, it's almost like we haven't heard much about that in the last few days, as if some were trying to make the story go away. But that'd be silly, right? I mean, if the powers that be in the church were trying to make the story go away, that'd sound like a cover-up, right? But the story won't go away, regardless of how much some of these men might want it to. There have been open calls from among the ordained for a formal independent investigation of the claims made by Archbishop Vigano and others about a cover-up. And as you can imagine, the response from the powers that be in the institutional church haven't exactly been exemplary of transparency. Almost as if some of these men have something to hide. It really gets the old noggin jogging, as they say. Let's go over these because in recent days, some new calls have emerged. First, let's go over the story that can be kind of blackpilling. In Tennessee, we have the case of a permanent deacon who has been basically suspended for daring to suggest that allegations of a cover-up that came in the aftermath of a lengthy list of names of predator priests was released needs to be investigated and independently investigated, not investigated by the dioceses in question themselves. From the Tennessean, the local newspaper in question. Catholic deacon removed from ministry after calling for independent investigation of sex abuse allegations. A Catholic deacon who called for an independent investigation after the Nashville diocese released the names of priests accused of sexual abuse has been removed from ministry at his Brentwood parish. Deacon Ron Deal, who has served at Holy Family Catholic Church since 2010, cannot minister as a deacon at the parish until his public disagreement with the diocese is resolved, according to a letter from the Reverend Joe McMahon, the church's pastor. The letter says the parish priest's decision was backed by Nashville Bishop J. Mark Spalding. Deal is not surprised by the decision, but says he has never spoken against the diocese as a deacon at the parish. But Deal does not think the diocese can effectively investigate itself when it comes to child abuse allegations against priests, and he plans to continue to call for that external review. And good for him for doing that, because obviously they cannot investigate themselves impartially. I believe in the church. I want the church to live up to the ideals that it asks of the rest of us, Deal said. I just feel like it's falling short, and I don't see that it's changing. And he seems to be on the money. The Holy Family Church referred requests for comment to diocesan spokesman Rick Musacchio. Deal, who is a permanent deacon with the diocese, is not suspended and continues to draw his stipend, and would be welcome back if the public disagreement stops, Musacchio said. Father Joe explained that he did not think it was appropriate for a deacon to continue in ministry, to continue to exercise ministry in his parish while at the same time carrying out a very public disagreement with the diocese, with the bishop, Musacchio said. Well, probably the priest is wrong on that one. Deacons are ordained ministers within the Catholic Church but are not part of the priesthood. Deal, 53, a Nashville native and licensed attorney, started to publicly call for an independent investigation as the diocese was preparing to release the names of former priests accused of sexually abusing minors. The diocese published a list of 13 names on the 2nd of November. In an attempt to raise awareness about the issue, Deal did interviews with members of the media and participated in a news conference called by the Tennessee chapter of the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. That's a sad statement itself that we live in a world where we need to have a national organization with local chapters by that name. Deal also contacted local, state, and federal law enforcement appealing to them to investigate all 3 dioceses in Tennessee, in Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. Good on this deacon. The Nashville diocese also had previously shared at least some of its files with civil authorities and recently reached out to State Attorney General, Davidson County District Attorney, and the local U.S. Attorney, saying it's willing to cooperate with any investigations they want to undertake, Musacchio said. Musacchio also pointed out that the list of names Deal is concerned with was voluntarily disclosed. But Deal said the hiccups in the diocese's release of information is further evidence that outside review is needed. Deal said he was among those who flagged missing names from a shorter list initially shared by the diocese. When the 13 names were eventually published, some of the priests' assignments were missing, and one of them listed as dead was actually alive. That should raise some red flags there. When it corrected itself, the diocese also shared the names of 3 additional priests. Those men are accused of abuse in other dioceses, but the Nashville diocese does not have any allegations against them in their files. Like the Nashville diocese, many dioceses across the country are publishing names of accused priests. These lists come in the wake of this summer's damning Pennsylvania grand jury report that found allegations of widespread clergy sex abuse and cover-up in 6 of that state's dioceses. If you want to read that article for yourself, the link is on the sources blog as usual. It's interesting when people who work for the church begin to notice that things seem to be changing. No offense to the good deacon, because he is brave for speaking out publicly, but the church has been in a constant state of change since the 1960s. Pope Francis isn't the cause of the change in the slightest, nor should he be treated as if he is. There has been an air of constant change in the church. In the 1970s and 80s, we saw the imposition of altar girls, communion in the hand, and everyone's favorite liturgical dancing with its requisite, truly awful liturgical music. But at least people are starting to notice things, right? Anyway, this brings us to the more positive story. Cardinal Ike, yeah, I know, I mispronounce his name. I'm an American. It happens. Sue me. Cardinal Ike is the source of our next story, which is a full interview with an Italian newspaper. From LifeSite News. Cardinal Ike. Yeah, I know. The church must investigate Vigano testimonies to regain credibility. Rome, 14th of December. A prominent cardinal is joining a chorus of bishops and calling for a full investigation into the Archbishop Vigano testimonies, which implicated several senior prelates and Pope Francis in the cover-up of former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's sexual abuse of priests and seminarians. I like the way a chorus of bishops sounds in this. It gives me hope. In a December 13th interview with the Italian daily Il Giornale, Cardinal Willem Jacobus Ike, again, I know, Archbishop of Utrecht, Netherlands, says, "It is clear that the allegations contained in the Vigano testimonies should be thoroughly examined," adding that many bishops have asked for such an investigation. It has to be carefully clarified if the church wants her credibility back, he said. In a wide-ranging interview, the Dutch cardinal also discusses the importance of persevering in Catholic doctrine amid pressures to adopt a more Protestant Anglican model. Ooh, based. I like this. The strength of the Catholic Church, Ike says, is that her doctrine is valid for the whole world. Dialogue with the Protestants must not lead the Catholic Church herself to becoming Protestant. I really like this guy. Ike, 65, also offers his view on the inclusion of the acronym in the recent Youth Synod's working document, and his thoughts on the expected move to ordain married men in the Latin Church with next year's Amazonian Synod. To allow married priests temporarily is not a solution, he insists. Once it is decided, it becomes irrevocable. And with this priestly celibacy, a splendid and fruitful centuries-old tradition of the Latin Church would be lost. And he is absolutely right. Cardinal Ike, who issued a forceful commentary after Pope Francis failed to reject a draft by the German Bishops' Conference allowing the Protestants, in certain cases, access to Holy Communion, also says in the interview that he would like the bearer of the Petrine ministry, who is the principle of the unity of the Christian faith, to provide clarity on the issue of divorced and remarried Catholics being granted access to the Blessed Sacrament. Created a cardinal by Pope Benedict XVI in 2012, Ike is also a medical doctor and expert in medical ethics. He wrote one of his doctoral dissertations on euthanasia. We've got a big-brained cardinal here, because he has multiple dissertations, and another on the ethical problems of genetic engineering of human beings. In 2004, John Paul II appointed him a member of the Pontifical Academy for Life, and a member of its governing council in 2005. Under Benedict, Ike also served on the Vatican's Congregation for Clergy and Catholic Education. In a December 13th interview, Ike also turns to politics, discussing the influx of migrants into Europe and the rise of nationalism and populism. The cardinal argues that while nationalism must never be used as a shield to keep others out, governments are not obliged to grant residence to economic migrants. That'll ruffle some feathers. He also notes that migrants, for their part, have obligations towards the common good of the country where they are seeking refuge, and must especially respect the inviolability of the human person. Here below is a LifeSite translation of the full interview with Cardinal Ike. I'm going to read part of this, and the link to this will be on the sources blog. You can have a read for it. You can read it yourself. Cardinal Ike, what is the state of the health of Catholicism in Northern Europe? We know that the Church has experienced a difficult situation. The Catholic Church is shrinking throughout Northern Europe. The Netherlands has the questionable honor of being the leader in this phenomenon. We were the first country where the shrinkage began. In the meantime, there is a decrease in the number of faithful throughout Northern Europe, especially in Germany, where decline is rapid. But I know that even in countries like Spain and Italy, the shrinkage is a phenomenon that's being felt. What is the reason for this? The main cause is the individualism that characterizes modern Western society. I really like this guy. Because of the increase in prosperity, people have become independent. One can still see the difficulty families have in passing on the faith, in a context where it's increasingly pushed out the door. In social life, the Christian religion is no longer present and is viewed with scarcely hidden or even manifest hostility. As far as the Netherlands is concerned, we are in a phase in which parishes are merging and many churches are no longer being used for worship. Cardinal, you have spoken about individualism, but there are also other causes. The cause is the lack of active faithful who participate in church celebrations and support the church as volunteers and/or with financial contributions. In Holland, there are no church taxes. The church in Holland survives on the basis of voluntary contributions from the faithful. This makes the church poor, but also free from the state, which I consider a great advantage, one that surpasses the disadvantage of poverty. There are, however, also clear places of hope, where strength is gathered and faith is lived in an authentic way through good liturgy, catechesis, and activities for the various groups. The Archdiocese also forms volunteers with this objective in mind. It has given rise to formation for future permanent deacons, catechists, and deacons' assistants. Currently, there are lay pastoral workers who had university-level theological training and earned an academic salary, but their number has been reduced by more than half in the 11 years since I became Archbishop of Utrecht, and the number will become very low in the years that still remain to me as an Archbishop of Utrecht. He seems to be aware of the situation of the church and isn't deluding himself about the dire state of things. If you want to read the rest of that, as usual, it's on the sources blog linked below. The fact that he would give a full interview to LifeSite News is a positive sign, and it shows that some of the bishops are actually less concerned about career advancement than the salvation of souls and the protection of the church. Add the good cardinal to the short list of the decent ones. And notice how he's absolutely on the right track when it comes to standing against the modernist innovations that are being proposed today, especially on issues like marriage, divorce, and the normalization of the Bay Area lifestyle, which you need to read the full article to see that. I really recommend you do, because he really is standing against all the modern innovations that seem to be coming around in this latest wave of the need to bring the church into the modern world. We definitely need more cardinals like Ike. If you like videos like this, like and share this video and subscribe, and click the notification bell below. You can support my work on Patreon and Subscribestar. Links are found in the description below, along with links to my Twitter, the Sources blog, and the Return to Tradition Facebook page. Thanks for listening. I'm Anthony Stein. Ave Maria.